Imagine standing on a bridge, the ground beneath you collapsing, the winds howling around, and yet, somehow, you are called to walk forward. You cannot see the other side, and the fear is palpable. But you must step. Why? Because faith is not the absence of fear. It is stepping forward in spite of it. Ladies and gentlemen, life has a way of testing us. It strips away comfort, security, and certainty, leaving us exposed to doubt and despair. And yet, it is precisely in these moments that our faith is most vital, not as a vague feeling, but as a deliberate, conscious choice. First, acknowledge your pain. Don't suppress it or pretend it doesn't exist. Accept the reality of your struggles. Faith does not ask us to deny suffering, it asks us to trust beyond it. Second, remember that faith is a decision. Emotions are fleeting, but choosing to believe, to trust in something larger than ourselves, carries us through storms when feelings betray us. Third, see beyond the immediate chaos. Life's upheavals are temporary, yet they can teach eternal truths. Every trial is an invitation to grow, to deepen your character, and to learn patience, resilience, and courage. Fourth, start small. Even the tiniest act of faith, a prayer whispered in desperation, a kind word offered to another, a commitment to continue moving forward, can anchor your spirit when everything else feels unstable. Fifth, learn from adversity. Pain and loss are not punishments, but teachers. They reveal strengths we never knew we had, refine our understanding of love, and connect us more deeply to others who suffer. Finally, lean on your community. Faith is strengthened in shared experience. Seek those who lift you up, who remind you of hope when despair feels overwhelming, and who journey alongside you in life's storms. Friends, holding on to faith when the world crumbles around us is not easy. But it is in the crucible of hardship that faith shines brightest. Step forward even when you cannot see the other side. Trust even when you feel unworthy. Love even when your heart is heavy. And remember, the same force that steadies the stars and breathes life into the universe can steady you as well. Because faith is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting in the one who does. And when everything falls apart, it is faith that holds the pieces together until light breaks through the darkness. Suffering is a part of life that no one can escape, yet most of us try to avoid facing it. We run from pain, hoping it will disappear, hoping it won't touch us, but denial only makes it heavier. When everything falls apart, it is easy to feel isolated, as if the world has turned its back and left you to bear the weight alone. The first step toward keeping your faith is acknowledging your suffering fully and honestly. Look at the pain, name it, and allow yourself to feel it without guilt or shame. Human beings are wired to resist discomfort, but resistance only prolongs agony. Accepting that life can be unfair or cruel is not weakness, it is courage in its purest form. It takes strength to stare into the chaos and say, "This is real, and I will not pretend it isn't." Acknowledgement brings clarity. It allows you to see your emotions for what they are: fear, anger, grief, confusion, without letting them control your choices. People often mistake ignoring suffering for strength, but true strength comes from facing it head on and understanding it. Every tear, every sleepless night, every pang of loss becomes a teacher if you are willing to listen. Pain has a way of revealing what we value most, what we truly rely on, and what we need to release. It exposes the cracks in our lives, the areas where we cling to illusions of control, and the attachments that weigh us down. By recognizing suffering, you can begin to separate what is temporary from what is eternal, what is changeable from what is constant. Acceptance does not mean you have to like the situation or resign yourself to it, but it opens the door for faith to grow. Faith thrives in honesty. When you admit the depth of your struggle, you create a space where hope can take root, where resilience can emerge, where trust in something greater can begin to lift the burden. Acknowledging suffering also connects you to others. Human beings are social creatures. When you share your pain with someone who listens without judgment, it lightens the load and reminds you that you are not alone. Recognition of suffering turns isolation into connection, despair into solidarity, and fear into courage. It is the first step toward reclaiming your faith, because faith cannot flourish in denial, but it blooms when the heart is brave enough to face reality as it is. Faith is not just a feeling that comes and goes. It is a choice you make every single day, even when your heart is heavy and your mind is full of doubt. People often wait to feel hope or courage before they act, but true faith begins when you act despite what you feel. Emotions are unpredictable. Some days you will feel strong and sure, and other days fear and despair will cloud your thoughts. If you rely only on how you feel, your faith will be fragile, like a house built on sand. Choosing faith means standing firm when the winds of uncertainty howl around you. It means saying yes to trust, yes to hope, yes to perseverance, even when your senses tell you it is impossible. Human beings are wired to seek comfort and certainty, yet life rarely provides them in perfect measure. By deciding to believe when everything seems lost, you step into a strength that comes from deeper than the surface of your emotions. Faith as a choice does not ignore reality. It sees the pain, the loss, and the fear, yet refuses to be ruled by them. Every small decision to trust, whether to continue, to forgive, to love, or to hope, becomes a brick in the foundation of resilience. When you consciously choose faith, you give your mind a direction and your heart a reason to endure. You teach yourself that despair does not have to dominate, and that hope can exist even in the darkest moments. Choosing faith is also contagious. When people see someone persistently trusting and moving forward despite hardship, it inspires them to do the same. Human connection thrives on courage, and faith practiced as a deliberate act encourages others to hold on to their own. It becomes a ripple that spreads strength beyond your own life, creating communities of support, encouragement, and shared hope. Every choice you make in faith is a small victory over fear and doubt. It is a reminder that you are not powerless, that you have control over your response to life's storms, and that even the tiniest act of trust can transform despair into determination. Choosing faith turns moments of weakness into opportunities for growth, and it creates a path where feelings of hopelessness might otherwise lead to stagnation or surrender. When life falls apart, it is easy to focus only on the present chaos, the confusion, and the loss. But keeping faith requires looking beyond the immediate moment. Human beings naturally fixate on what is visible and tangible, yet most of life's meaning lies in what cannot be seen. Trials and hardships often feel endless, as if they define our story, but they are only chapters, not the whole book. By learning to see beyond the immediate pain, you give yourself the ability to hold on to hope, even when everything seems uncertain. Perspective allows you to recognize that temporary setbacks do not determine your ultimate purpose or worth. Every challenge, every failure, every heartbreak contains hidden lessons that can shape your character and deepen your understanding of life. When you shift your focus from what is lost to what can be gained, your suffering transforms from a burden into a teacher. Human history is full of people who endured unimaginable hardships and emerged wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. This perspective does not minimize pain, but it reframes it, giving suffering a context beyond itself. Seeing beyond the present helps you avoid the trap of despair, which thrives when we believe that our current troubles are permanent or all-encompassing. It reminds you that life is a journey, not a moment, and that storms, no matter how fierce, eventually pass. Perspective also allows gratitude to grow, even in small things. Noticing the love of a friend, the kindness of a stranger, or the strength within yourself shifts attention from what is broken to what still exists. Human beings are resilient when they recognize meaning, and perspective is the lens that reveals it. By looking beyond immediate circumstances, you can also identify opportunities hidden in adversity. Problems can spark creativity, foster empathy, and encourage action you may never have considered in easier times. This broader view strengthens faith, because it shows that life is larger than temporary setbacks, and that even the darkest moments contribute to a bigger picture. Perspective reminds you that suffering is not the end of the story, and that by keeping your focus beyond the now, you cultivate patience, hope, and a belief in the possibility of renewal and growth. Faith is often imagined as a grand, dramatic act, but in reality, it grows in the small, consistent choices we make every day. Human beings are inclined to wait for big signs or monumental moments before believing again. Yet hope is usually nurtured quietly in the little things. A single act of kindness, a whispered prayer, a decision to keep moving forward despite fear, or even a moment of patience with yourself can become the anchor that holds your spirit steady. These small acts of faith are powerful because they are achievable, immediate, and repeatable, giving you proof that you can endure and persist. Every time you act in faith, no matter how minor it seems, you are rewiring your mind to trust instead of panic, to hope instead of despair, and to see possibility instead of limitation. Small acts also remind you that you are not powerless. When life is falling apart, it is easy to feel like circumstances control you completely, but each choice you make to respond with courage and trust is a reminder that your spirit still matters. Human beings thrive on control and purpose, and even the tiniest decisions in faith restore a sense of agency. These small gestures accumulate, creating momentum. One act of trust leads to another, and soon a pattern emerges like drops of water carving a path through stone. The more you practice these small acts of faith, the more resilient you become, able to withstand greater challenges without losing hope. Small acts also inspire others. When someone sees another person refuse to give in to despair, to keep showing up, or to choose kindness and trust despite difficulties, it reminds them that they can do the same. Community, encouragement, and solidarity are born from these small but consistent expressions of belief. Even when progress feels invisible, these simple acts ripple outward, shaping both your inner life and the lives of those around you. Human psychology responds to consistency. Repeated small acts of faith create habits of resilience, hope, and endurance. They are the building blocks of lasting courage, showing that you do not need to have everything figured out or a perfect plan to keep trusting. Each tiny commitment is proof that faith does not require perfection, only persistence, and that even the smallest steps can carry you through the darkest days, keeping the heart open, the mind focused, and the spirit unbroken. Adversity is often seen as an enemy, something to resist or escape, but it can be one of life's greatest teachers if we are willing to learn. Human beings naturally fear discomfort, loss, and failure, yet these experiences often reveal strengths we did not know we had. Challenges test patience, endurance, and courage, and through them, we discover the depth of our own resilience. Every difficult moment contains lessons about who we are, what we value, and how we relate to the world around us. Pain can teach empathy, showing us how others feel when they struggle and inspiring acts of kindness and compassion. It can also clarify priorities, helping us distinguish between what truly matters and what is trivial. When we allow adversity to teach rather than defeat us, we transform obstacles into opportunities for growth. Human psychology responds to challenges by adapting, and when we embrace them with intention, we strengthen our mental, emotional, and spiritual muscles. Mistakes, failures, and heartbreaks become training grounds for wisdom, humility, and perseverance. Even the sharpest disappointments carry hidden gifts, perspective, patience, and insight that cannot be gained through comfort alone. Learning from adversity also changes the way we approach future challenges. Once we see that we have survived hardship before, we gain confidence that we can endure again. This growing awareness fuels faith because it reminds us that life's storms, though painful, do not have the final say. Human beings are social creatures, and sharing lessons learned from hardship creates connection, solidarity, and hope for others. When we model resilience, we show that suffering does not have to destroy, and that courage, growth, and faith can emerge from even the darkest circumstances. Adversity also teaches humility, revealing that we are part of something larger than ourselves, that control is limited, and that surrender to the process of growth can be empowering rather than frightening. By seeing every challenge as an invitation to learn rather than a punishment to endure, we shift the narrative of our lives from victimhood to agency. Each struggle becomes a stepping stone, each setback a classroom, and each trial a teacher shaping us into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate human beings capable of facing the next storm with courage and faith. Faith does not thrive in isolation. Human beings are social creatures who are built to connect, share, and support one another. When life falls apart, loneliness can amplify despair and make struggles feel unbearable. But surrounding yourself with a supportive community can provide strength, encouragement, and perspective. Being part of a group of people who understand, uplift, and challenge you allows faith to grow in ways that are difficult to achieve alone. When someone walks with you through hardship, it reminds you that you are not powerless, that hope exists even in the darkest moments, and that love and trust can endure trials. Human sociology shows that shared experiences create bonds that are essential for resilience, and when faith is nurtured within a network of care, it becomes stronger and more enduring. Support systems can be formal or informal. Family, friends, mentors, spiritual groups, or even communities that share your values. But the key is connection, communication, and mutual encouragement. When you allow yourself to lean on others, you learn that vulnerability is not weakness, it is a doorway to strength, understanding, and deeper relationships. Observing how others cope with their own challenges can also provide insight and inspiration, showing practical ways to hold on to hope and act with courage. Community offers accountability, reminding you to persevere when your own motivation falters, and it provides celebration when small victories occur, reinforcing the power of faith in action. Human beings are wired for empathy and imitation. Seeing others demonstrate trust, patience, and resilience encourages us to adopt the same behaviors. Faith shared multiplies. It spreads from one person to another, creating a ripple effect of encouragement, courage, and optimism. Even small gestures such as listening, offering a kind word, or simply being present can reinforce someone's belief in themselves and in something greater than their immediate circumstances. In times of despair, isolation can feel like the default, but intentionally seeking connection strengthens the soul. Shared experiences, collective encouragement, and the knowledge that others care provide a sense of belonging and purpose, reminding us that we are part of a larger story. Through community, faith becomes visible, tangible, and alive, giving both the giver and the receiver the courage to keep moving forward, to trust, and to hope even when life feels fractured and uncertain.